actually verify that it's not even a human source behind all this thing. It's a very dark, evil source and a non-human source behind the whole thing. And that's why our world is an absolute disaster. That's why we have politicians that we put into office that don't do anything we want. And they just ruin everything. Politician after politician. Obama says all this. He gets in office, and it was all just a joke. Everything he promised. And I mean, if you just look at the world as from the perspective that there's a secret satanic world government behind the scenes controlling everything, the governments, the education systems, and so forth, then all of history and the whole world makes sense. If you leave that out, then you just sit there and scratch your head all the time and say, gee, why is the world such a mess? I just don't get it. Everything's just so crazy. So the Illuminati, in one sentence, is a secret satanic world government that's not even human, behind the scenes, running everything and creating this dark, horrific torture system that we all live in. And when I say torture, think of war, poverty, starvation, the whole deal.
Mm-hmm. Now, and you also say that the Illuminati are the Nephilim. And explain that Nephilim. There's a lot of controversy, it seems, back and forth of people saying that Nephilim are giants. Other people are saying Nephilim are fallen angels. And also, too, maybe we could expand on that question, because when we read in conspiracy history, people say, well, Adam Weishaupt is the founder of the Illuminati. But and I agree with you, by the way, you're actually saying that, this plan is from a supernatural realm, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot, we all know about Adam Weishaupt, and the Jesuits are, that was really just a name change. This group existed before that, okay? I mean, they've existed for a long, long time, and they started calling themselves the Illuminati in 15, whatever that year was, and that's just fine, but it's clear they existed way, way back. Now, it's what I mean by the Nephilim is, now I don't, in my film, I don't go into biblical sources and try to say, the Bible's true and here's, we can prove that these entities rule the world. I don't do anything like that. What I do is I just simply take what we know of our world today and put it all together, and I empirically deduce that there's this secret satanic inhuman government behind, way behind the scenes controlling everything. And I just find that I just call them the Nephilim, and I find out by sheer coincidence in the research of the film that they perfectly match what is meant by the Nephilim in Genesis 6, 1 through 4. And that's basically a demonic race of more than human, utterly evil masters that are they have a whole different sort of technology than we do. They have a whole different sort of spirituality than we do. And the world basically is a playground for them it's very difficult to understand. You have to get into the fact that what these entities are all about is their spirituality, their dark religion. And if you really want to understand the world, this is what you have to pick up on, is that they are constructing the world as a sort of art project that facilitates their dark religion, which I call dark ecstasy in the film. And that's why we have these crazy scenarios, like, for example, there's Iraq warfare going on, and right in the middle of battle, there's all of a sudden these triangular Phoenix Lights type ships or something that soldiers report are hovering overhead and may even take pot shots at troops and so forth. All kinds of bizarre things like that. I mean, none of this makes sense if you have the university perspective on history, but if you have a Nephilim-controlled perspective of the world, then all this stuff makes sense. So the Nephilim are a secret race of dark masters.
And so is that also why during World War II they saw Foo Fighters and things like that?
Yeah, that could be related. There's all kinds of stories of different bizarre oddities. That's a very good point you bring up. All kinds of oddities all through history appearing during war. That's because this is one of their rituals. This is one of their playgrounds, their theater. That's why they called the Iraq War the theater of war. They called Hurricane Katrina, the Hurricane Katrina devastation, they called it a laboratory. That's just because they're just telling you this is their ritual. This is their, shock and awe was, they used the word awe for the start of the second phase of the Iraq War, because that's what it is to them. It's awe.
Now, at the highest point, as far as the human, the physical human part of this cabal or this plan, this agenda, are these people in cahoots, so to speak, with the supernatural, or are they being deceived by the supernatural? Are they guinea pigs of sorts?
Okay, both. There's a turnover point. Basically, the way a lot of times people view the New World Order system as, saying the Illuminati is the bankers or something. Now, I radically and violently disagree with that, because the bankers are just a bunch of grumpy old people, and you can clearly see that they're all following agendas. They're all working together for various means and so forth. And you have the Bilderberg Group. I mean, who's giving the orders to the Bilderberg Group? And the Bilderberg Group really controls banking activities worldwide anyway. So the bankers are clearly not the top of the food chain in any way. They're not the Illuminati. This is very often confused by people. You have to go way, way up, and just whatever the top group is, just call them the Illuminati. That's the way I do it. And then as far as there being, who's working with them and who's in the dark and doesn't know they exist, it's kind of hard to tell where that exactly happens. I think that probably at the level of the Vatican, in there, they probably are working directly in cahoots with these fallen angels, these dark masters, but somewhere down the food chain from there, down the totem pole from there, maybe at the level of bankers or something, they don't know anymore that this is what the whole program is all about, and they probably are deceived just as much as we are, even though the bankers are enemies of humanity right now, destroying the world and impoverishing everything. But truthfully, they may be just as deceived as we are.
That's interesting. That's very interesting. Now, so how do these groups, how do you see these groups as working together? How is it that they're able to accomplish, say, a master objective? I know sometimes it seems like they don't always agree, at least in totality, but how do they work as a moving organism together?
You mean how do the Nephilim or the lower puppet levels?
All of these different groups, these physical groups, how are they able to work together?
I take the in my take, and I think this is an empirical issue. You can just verify this with your eyes. I take something like the banking system. I mean, look at the Bilderberg Group. They're all these, supposed, we call them world financial leaders. Yeah, right. They're just puppets. I mean, they all get together there and meet, and they take orders from someone. Somebody drops off the orders, and that's just a drop-off point for them to get their instructions. That's fascinating. That's just like a corporation where you and I might work at, where we go into a board meeting or the warehouse meeting or whatever, and you get your orders. So it's fascinating. So they may just be doing the same thing we are, way up the food chain there. But then notice that beyond the Bilderberg Group, when I say who's giving the orders to the Bilderberg Group, things get murky. And the whole point of my DVD was to shed some light on, who is behind that group, what is further up the totem pole. And then when you get way back in there, it's difficult to understand how they're working together as an organism, but somehow it changes over from being like an ordinary corporation, which you still see that corporatist structure in the Bilderbergers, but somehow further back it changes over into being a supernatural, dark, rich domain of ritual. You go to the Vatican, and the priests all over are sexually abusing children. Then you go to the Vatican, there's upside down crosses all over the place, and there's dark ritual all over that thing, and it's shrouded in secrecy, and it's hugely protected by by the financial and corporate structures of the world, this little island nation. So somehow back when you get beyond the ordinary corporatistic structure, there's a different cohesion, probably difficult to understand because you get to a non-human level of it, and then who knows? They could be a group mind. They could be communicating by telepathy. They could just be communicating by a sort of collaborative spiritual ecstasy, dark ecstasy that they have, where they're working in unison. I know Buddhist monks, when they have sort of similar mystical states, will know that each other are in mystical states, which is now, that's of course not a dark ecstasy. That's a on the side of the light of the intelligent designer of the universe. But it could be the similar thing is going on with the Dark Masters, where in their state of spiritual dark ecstasy, they just are sort of in cahoots together in a certain kind of collaboration, which is difficult for we despiritualized, egotistical humans down here and in the slave level to understand.
Now, when someone sees a movie like Angels and Demons, and it sort of pits the Illuminati, or this name Illuminati, maybe not necessarily pinpointing what the Illuminati exactly is, And in fact, they had a distorted definition of what the Illuminati was. But
Yeah.
when they show the Illuminati and they sort of show them as a tortured group by the Catholic Church, why are they putting blame on the Catholic Church when it is obvious that at least at the upper echelon of the Catholic Church there's some sort of movement toward things like the New World Order and Illuminati type goals? So is this a smokescreen? Why would they have a movie like this portray the Catholic Church as negative